I have never in the history of, and I'm going on 20 years, seen insurance medical examiner or independent medical examiner, the formal words, uh, say that this person's injury is related to the incident, the accident, and that they should continue to receive care. How's everyone doing today? My name is Jason Gower, and I'm a local attorney in the Great Lakes Bay Area. I've been in practice going into my 20th year here, and it's been quite a journey. And now I'm happy to share with you my journey and what's brought me here and where we're going from here. For years, I've been asked, why don't you, do some sort of podcast, or why don't you do some sort of TikTok shorts or YouTube shorts? And I've kind of veered away from that. But now I think as I'm approaching my 50th birthday, I can't believe that, now's the time to do it. So I've consulted with my friends, I've consulted with some family members, and I've decided to now bring you the GowerCast. So here we are. We're at the GowerCast, and I want to thank you for tuning in and ask you to tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like, and share my video. Let's get it out there. I'm never one to shy away from putting myself out there in front of a camera. And of course, I'm an attorney, so I'm never short on words. I'm always willing to say the extra words. Some might question, are you billing by the word? Sometimes, I guess. I'm what you call a lawpreneur. So I am a lawyer, but I'm also understood at a very early time in my career that being a lawyer also meant being a business owner. And I knew that going into law school early on. And when I was starting law school, prior to starting law school, I should say, I began building my brand. And an older gentleman whom I used to have lunch with, a group of older guys, an older gentleman said to me, Jason, just build your brand. And ever since then, that's what I began doing. And again, that was before law school. So I started doing it. Now, how did I do it? Well, I got involved in the community. I started running for public office. A lot of people don't understand how easy it is to get involved and run for public office. I ran for public office. I was 23 years old, and I won my seat in the Williams Charter Township in Bay County, Michigan, in the election of 2000. I was the youngest elected official in the county that year. So I was very happy, very proud of that. And I was just finishing up my undergrad. And when I was in undergrad, I studied business. And so business was kind of my pull. And we didn't have a lot of video podcasting, and we didn't have a lot of social media. But marketing was something that I guess the good Lord just kind of blessed me with and gave me that ability to market who I am, market myself. Why is branding so important? Well, branding is very important because you are your brand. You're the walking brand of what you're going to do. The business comes almost after the brand. People want to know who they're dealing with. When I was first starting out, I was afraid to approach lawyers. I was afraid to approach attorneys or judges because they almost seemed like I couldn't talk to them. Well, one of the first things I said that I was going to do was I was going to remain approachable. So I began building my brand, Jason Gower, and I always remained approachable. And when I began my practice, I really made myself available to all clients. And if you're considering, law school, or you're thinking maybe that's something you want to do, you want to be a business owner, you should listen to this video and listen to this story, because I'm going to tell you what I did to move forward. When I started out, I would write letters for people. I would never miss a phone call. One of the best inventions I think they ever created was the call forwarding system. So for the first 5 years of my career, I didn't miss a call, whether I was answering the call or my secretary, who I wasn't even able to hire until probably 4 or 5 months into practice, I would forward the calls and I would answer the calls. So for the first 5 years, 60 months, they say if you really want to do well at something, do it for 60 months straight. Except for the birth of my children, I didn't take any time off. I always would say I worked 24/7 because the phone would never shut off. And as the calls come in, I had the call forwarding system on and I would answer the call. And I would take the call, whether I was having dinner with family or I was out and about on a Sunday afternoon, Saturday afternoon, whatever. If the phone rang, I took it because people want you to be available to them. And you think of it almost like retail. You have to be available when people are available to shop. Most people won't call you till they're out of work for the day or on a weekend when they're thinking about next week I got to get a hold of a lawyer. Maybe I'll leave a message. But if they call and they get an attorney immediately, you can then begin that process of showing them your brand and showing them who you are and why you are there to help them. When I was starting out, besides never missing a phone call, I never, ever missed an opportunity to give a business card away. In fact, I still carry my business cards on me today. I'm looking at my pocket, and I want to show you this. I constantly carry my cards, and I was very simple, just black and white with a card, and on the back, I made it almost like a billboard, and I would list what it was that I did. I kind of subscribed to if you were in the office, you weren't making money. And so I would take that time to go and back then they had malls. So I would walk around the mall and strike up conversations with retail associates and ask them questions. And then I would say, let me ask you something. If you needed an attorney, who would you call? I mean, for whatever legal matter. And a lot of times they'd hem and haw and they weren't sure who they would call and they would try to think of a name. And then I would use that as my opening, say, well, I'm an attorney, and I already been talking to them for 5 or 10 minutes. And I would give them my card and say, if there's ever anything I can help you with, let me know. So one of the things that I would always tell younger lawyers is, how many cards did you hand out today? How many hands did you shake today? Because believe it or not, there are still people, and I've been at this going on 20 years, there are still people to this day that have my very first business card, and they just hold on to it. They put it in their wallet or they carry it around with them for when they're in need, but they still carry that card with them. And it's amazing to me that something so simple like a business card can get somebody to reach out to you just because you struck up a conversation. And even today, almost 20 years later, I'll strike up a conversation with somebody and I'm my brand. So I will start telling them what it is that I do. And I simply just say, if there's ever anything I can help you with, give me a call. And I just leave the door open for that. And sometimes they do call. So the question is, do people know what you do? Do they know you're an attorney? Do they know that you practice law? Do they know that you've tried, close to 50 cases to verdict? They don't know that unless you tell them. Some would say, well, that might seem a little like you're bragging. No, not really, because I'm the brand. And so if they don't know what it is that I can deliver, they'll never call me. Throughout this podcast, I put together a list of certain things that are happening in the legal community, local legal community, and some things that are happening nationally. And I'd like to talk about them from time to time and give you my, I don't want to call it my spin, but I want to give you my commentary. And I'd like to engage it and ask you that if there's something that you want to hear more of, just let me know and I'll find it and bring it to you and we can talk about it. Because I really want to shed some light, because a lot of people don't understand the legal realm. They're afraid to talk to lawyers. They're afraid to make that phone call. Well, they shouldn't be, because if you have a lawpreneur who's not afraid to be out there and not afraid to remain approachable, then you'll make that call. You'll give us a ring. My practice is in Bay City, Michigan. And as I said, we've been at it going on almost 20 years. And we have a team of lawyers that can help in pretty much all areas. We're in the Great Lakes Bay Area, and we always say hire local. I always tell everybody hire local. And somebody asks, well, why do you constantly say that? Well, there's an adage. Good lawyer knows the law. Great lawyer knows the judge. I'm kidding. But we do know the environment, and we do know where we're going with it. We know the local juries. We know the people who live in our community. And so we can better serve you. And I always say, when was the last time one of these big firms donated to a cause? I mean, are they sponsoring your kids' Little League? Are they sponsoring, are they buying local Girl Scout cookies? Are they doing anything for the local economy here? Most of them aren't. I mean, you'll see them on TV and you'll see the big advertisements, but they're not doing anything except for taking our money somewhere else. And so we want you to always consider calling us first and hire in local, so that if we can't help you, we'll find somebody who can. And the first thing we're going to do is look local, see if there's somebody local that can help you. Let's look at the stack. Let's look at the stack of stuff that I brought in. I brought in some recent jury verdicts and recent settlements on some injury cases. At Gower Law, I started the practice on doing a lot of criminal defense work. I think we were probably around 85% criminal defense work and about 15% family law, some injury. Now it's more about 50-50. We're doing probably about 50% criminal defense work and 50% civil work, meaning some injury cases, and we're doing also some family law cases. So let's talk about some of these injury cases. And in my stack, I brought to you recently out of Wayne County, Michigan. This was an interesting case. There was a postal worker that was walking while delivering on their route, and they were struck by a salt truck, and the carrier was injured. Now, when you're injured on the job in Michigan, your first remedy when you're working for your employer is workers' compensation. So everybody has to do that. But a lot of people don't realize, in addition to workers' comp, you can bring a claim for injuries against the at-fault party. So in this case, a truck that was being driven, it was a salt truck, struck the carrier while they were delivering mail on their route. And the carrier suffered some substantial injuries. And actually, it was deemed that the carrier was permanently disabled from that. So I'm not sure if they were struck from behind or what, but you got to imagine somebody, I guess, human versus truck. The truck's going to win every time. This case went to trial, and prior to the jury reaching a verdict, the both sides of the party, the plaintiff, which was the injured party, and the defendant, which was the defendant's insurance company, I believe, reached a settlement. And they settled the case for, I believe it was $6 million for that, because the individual was injured. The damages in Michigan for an injured party really goes down to whether or not it's a permanent damage or something that you're going to recover from. Now, if this person was going to recover and they were only out of work for a week, then the damages aren't anywhere near the $6 million. I was looking again at some of these and some of these injury cases that recently were reported, and there was a verdict. This case actually went to trial where there was an individual riding a motorcycle and they were struck by an automobile. And a lot of times, we see in the warmer months here in Michigan, usually beginning probably spring, summer, it's obviously going into summer, more and more bikers on the road. And of course, motorcycle and cars, the person driving the car owes a duty to these people on their motorcycles. In this case, there was a group of bikes riding together, and or motorcyclists, I should say, on their bikes riding together, and they began slowing down, and the person in the car was either distracted or wasn't paying attention, and she struck one of the motorcyclists, and the foot was not completely severed off, but it was severely injured. This case went through the process of litigation, where they brought a claim alleging injuries, and before it goes to a verdict or a jury, there's a lot of opportunity to settle these matters, settle these personal injury matters. And the defendant's insurance company offered to settle the case for, it looks like it was $125,000. And that just wasn't enough for this injured motorcyclist. And his attorney, the motorcyclist and the attorney counseled. And of course, they counteroffered and they couldn't reach an agreement. So it went through a trial and the jury rendered a verdict in the amount of $1.5 million. Now, again, if the foot was severed off, the damages would be much higher. A lot of people don't understand when you get in an auto accident, if you had a sprained wrist, that's going to be worth a lot less than if you had a broken arm. So that's how they measure damages. And these insurance companies, they don't make money paying claims. So they're going to look at every single claim and they're going to scrutinize them. And I guess if it was their family member, they'd say they're injured significant. But it's just a person on a piece of paper. And they have set, these claims adjusters have set amounts. For instance, a broken leg is worth this amount, a broken arm is worth this amount, a twisted ankle is worth nothing. In Michigan, on auto cases, you have to reach what's called a threshold in order to collect on against the at-fault party, because we're a no-fault state. In future episodes, we'll get into what exactly is Michigan no-fault and is it good for us or not good for us. They say it's probably one of the best systems in the country. I think that's arguable. I think you can argue about that. So, all right. So I got another one here that came out today where a semi-truck hit a van and caused a chain reaction collision. And this happened on an interstate, and it was an 18-wheeler. Semi-trucks can't come to complete stops, as you know, very fast. And it was a rear-end accident. And the case ended up going through litigation, but they did reach a settlement amount. And the case settled for $2 million. Not just the individual that the semi hit, but if you cause the accident, like the semi-truck driver did in this case, and you cause the chain reaction, every single person who's injured in that chain can have a claim against the at-fault party. Most of the time, what will happen is a law firm or lawyer will sue everybody involved and then let them kind of figure it out. In this case here, the first car was injured. The driver of the first car, I should say, was injured worse than everybody else. And they ended up settling the claim. They had lifelong injuries, and they settled the lawsuit against the truck driver of the semi-truck. And again, a lot of people are like, well, the truck driver, he's on a salary. Well, everybody who's driving a car, as you know, and everybody who's in business who owns semis or moving vans or whatever, they have insurance policies. And what happens in an injury case, if you're at fault, your insurance company steps into your shoes and they have a duty to defend you against any claim. And so that's what happened here. The insurance company steps in the semi-truck driver's shoes, and then they start defending the case against him. So you're making the claim against him, but the insurance company is going to cover any liability. Now, back in the day, Michigan had a system where PLPD was only like $20,000. So if you had significant injury, the most you could get from an insurance company would be $20,000 for a significant injury. And what happened is a lot of times people would just take that small amount of a settlement for a significant injury. That to me seems very unjust, and they've changed that in Michigan now. So now the minimum coverage, I believe, is $250,000. If there's any insurance agents that are catching this video and I say something that's wrong on the insurance end, feel free to correct me. I have never have a problem being corrected. In fact, I welcome it, because I once had to reply on a social media post. I mentioned something, and the person responded back to me and said, "You're a lawyer. You should know this." And I told them I was sorry to spoil the illusion, but yes, I was, or yes, I am a lawyer, but no, I don't know everything. And I wish them a happy Thanksgiving and asked them to move on. And it actually went very nice between the two of us. But no, I don't care what area you're in. If I say something that's wrong in any of these videos, feel free to correct me in the comments. Feel free to tell me, and I will definitely correct it in subsequent episodes and mention, maybe I might even mention your name and say, thanks for correcting me, whoever it is. This caught my interest in the stack here, the stack of legal stuff. Judge dismisses charges against 2 Detroit area election workers in a double voting case. Now, what happened here was, first of all, election workers are usually volunteers. They volunteer. They do get paid a very small amount to come in and help on election day. And those are usually like 18-hour days. I mean, they're there for a long time. In this case, some individuals had voted once before, and they went to another location and they voted again. And the election workers were unaware that they had previously voted. And some strings got crossed, and they allowed them to vote. And luckily, after a preliminary examination, and I'll explain the criminal process as we go forward, but after this preliminary examination, where the judge heard testimony, either the people moved to dismiss it, meaning, Judge, we think now that all these facts have come out, the prosecution moves to dismiss it, and then the judge grants that, and then the judge gets the accolades on the front page. Judge dismisses charges, or the judge hears the evidence and says they didn't have any knowledge of this, and so therefore I can't find that they intentionally allowed several people to vote multiple times, and the judge dismisses the case. In any event, we're in a toxic time, with these elections and everything that's going on. Judges have to make the hard call sometimes. Every now and then, they'll make the hard call. Far too many times, they don't have the courage to make that hard call. And I hate to say that, but I say that as somebody who's run hundreds of preliminary examinations. In my career, I've had one judge in a preliminary examination dismiss a case, and that was in Saginaw, Michigan. I don't believe he's a judge anymore, but he heard the testimony and he dismissed at the preliminary examination. That's a rarity, folks. It doesn't happen all the time. And so it pains me to say that the preliminary examination in a criminal process is supposed to vet out, cases that don't have any merit. The problem is that the standard is a probable cause standard, and that's defined as whether or not A, crime was committed, and B, you likely committed it. The judge isn't finding that you did commit it. He or she is finding you may have committed it, but a crime was committed. So all the elements are there, and I'm going to send this case to trial. And all preliminary examinations, by the way, start in the district court. I like to call the district court the people's court, because judges at the district court have the most interaction with the people, whether it's a landlord-tenant, whether it's a small claims matter, whether it's a traffic misdemeanor. We live in a time that we criminalize almost everything. So a traffic offense is a misdemeanor. I've had people call me and say, I got this traffic offense, and I thought I could take care of it over the phone, and I called to pay the fine, and the clerk told me, no, that's a criminal offense. You have to show up in person and get arraigned before a judge. And luckily, they called us, and there are procedures that can allow you to not have to show up in person, and so we were able to do that and waive their formal appearance at that arraignment. But all cases start with the people's judge, the district court judge, and so you start there, and you have the most interaction with your district court judges. In fact, when I started Gower Law as the people's firm. And if you look at the branding, you look at the marketing, it says Gower Law, PLC, the people's firm, and then we underline the word people, but we don't underline apostrophe S. We only underline the word people because that's what it's about. And, I try to present and remind myself daily that, I'm the people's lawyer. I want to be the people's lawyer. So if you see me out and about, and I've said this earlier already, I want to remain approachable, so approach me. Most of the time you see me out, I'll be wearing a hat, like what's behind me there. I got the red hat. I unapologetically conservative, and I'm a Trump supporter, and so I made the hat red because we started with the black and white. And I made the hat red, and boy, it caught a lot of people's attention, I tell you. I don't know how many times I've been in public wearing a red, not guilty Gower Law hat, and I've had to have an argument or start an argument. Maybe I finished the argument with an individual who felt they were triggered by a red hat. And then I point to it and say, well, look closely. And it says Gower Law. I'm Gower. And then I said, and it says not guilty, just like Trump is, not guilty. And that really gets them going. I'm going to talk quickly about, I mentioned to you, I told you about some cases that resulted in some recovery, whether it was a settlement or a jury verdict. And we'll get into that, how that process works. But every now and then I say the bad guys. I call them the bad guys. They're not the bad guys, but the insurance company wins. And they hire a law firm that will represent their interest. Because remember what I told you, the insurance company stands in the shoes of what we call tortfeasor, the person who committed the tort, the defendant. And in this case here that I printed off, because I want to try to stay fair and balanced. I'm biased because I'm a plaintiff's lawyer and I'm also a criminal defense lawyer. So I'm biased. I'll tell you that up front. I'm biased. I've told you I'm unapologetically conservative. I'm a Republican. I am who I am. But I want to try to remain fair and balanced on this and tell you that in this case, it went through a trial and the jury made a finding of no cause of action. Now, what's no cause of action? No cause of action is the jury listening to it and saying, well, I hear all the facts, but you haven't proved that they're liable, so no cause. And that's very expensive for the plaintiff's lawyers because the plaintiff's lawyers, we take on all the economics of the case, and that's why a lot of our clients that we represent, the plaintiffs, their legal fees are based on a contingency. So we have to front the money up front, and then we don't get paid back unless there's a recovery. And if there's a zero recovery, you get paid back nothing. So that's why a lot of times the contingency fees are set at a third of whatever the recovery is. In this case, there was a claim against this individual's own insurance company because, again, I told you we're a no-fault auto state. And so when you get injured in an auto accident, you look to your own policy to make any claim for medical. All your medical is paid through your homeowner's insurance. In a perfect world, they pay for all of it. Sometimes there's coordinated benefits and all that, and your own health insurance will pay as well. But in this case, the individual was hit by a car while she was riding a bike, and she had to have a total knee replacement. So even though she wasn't driving a car, she had to look to her own insurance company to pay for her medical because she owns a vehicle, but on this day she was riding a bike, and her own auto insurance, even though her own auto wasn't involved in the accident, her own auto insurance covers her medical. And they cover some other things too, replacement services and some other things, mileage to and from the doctors, etc. Well, after she got full recovery, what they deemed was full recovery, her own insurance company sent her to what's called an independent medical examiner, an IME. Plaintiffs' lawyers, we call them insurance medical examiners because you know what they're going to say. They're going to say any other injuries are not related to the accident, therefore we shouldn't have to pay. And then they cut off benefits. And this individual had to sue her own insurance company. So she sued her own insurance company, and they hire lawyers that are very good at defending them because they don't want to pay claims out. And the insurance company prevailed. They were able to convince the jury that she had reached full recovery and therefore she should get nothing else. That was against her own insurance company. Now, she settled against the driver of the automobile, and that was a different settlement. That's called a third-party claim for damages. Pain and suffering is what a third-party claim for damages encompasses. Pain and suffering. But unfortunately, she had to sue her own insurance carrier because they rejected her from receiving any more benefits. And so sometimes we represent people who have to sue their own insurance company for medical care because their insurance company sends them to what? An IME, independent medical examiner, far from independent because their medical services are paid for by the insurance company. So what do we call them on the plaintiff side? Insurance medical examiner. Insurance medical examiner. And whose interest do they have at the core? They have the insurance company's interest at the core. And so I have never in the history of, and I'm going on 20 years, seen insurance medical examiner or independent medical examiner, the formal words, say that this person's injury is related to the incident, the accident, and that they should continue to receive care. Every single one of them. And then what happens is you have to sue the insurance company for a breach of contract because you paid your premium and you contracted with them to pay your medical, and now they're breaching it. They're saying they don't want to pay it, or not that they don't want to, but they're saying our expert said we don't have to pay anymore or we shouldn't have to pay anymore because it's not related or you've reached full recovery. A lot of times in auto cases, when you get in an auto accident, your injuries don't manifest the day of the accident. I mean, there's studies out there that a car rear-ending you at 10 miles an hour can cause significant neck injury, and that's only 10 miles per hour. So sometimes you get in a car accident and the adrenaline's pumping and you feel like, oh, I'm not injured, I don't need to go to the hospital. But then 3 days later, you can't get out of bed. So the initial records say, oh, no, didn't seek medical treatment, refused a ride in the ambulance, called for a ride home, but 3 days later, you can't get out of bed. You have, in Michigan, on auto injury claims, 3-year statute of limitations, 3 years to bring a claim. So the legislature knows the injury isn't going to manifest on day one. You have 3 years to bring the claim, 3-year statute of limitations. So a lot of times I've had conversation, or my office has had conversation with insurance adjusters, and they say, well, this was a year later that they had to have surgery. How is it related to the accident? I always remind them, friendly, of course, well, we have 3-year statute of limitations to bring a lawsuit. So the injuries didn't manifest until later on after the injury. I mean, if somebody's injured and they went right to the hospital, that's different, but in not all cases. And so don't be afraid to make that claim or to make that phone call to us, because we'll make the claim for you on your behalf, and we'll talk to the insurance company for you, and we'll remind them that just because you didn't go to the hospital on that day doesn't mean that the injury isn't related to the automobile accident. And that happens sometimes. Last thing I want to touch on is back to, my coined phrase, Lawpreneur, that I gave myself that long ago. In fact, if you look on my page, I think it's either on my social media Facebook page or it's on a page in my website. I may have put it on the website as well, that I fancy myself or call myself a lawpreneur. And we do this because, again, we're in business. The phrase that always comes to mind to me is the rapper Jay-Z. He says, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman or woman. So you're in business because you want to deliver to individuals, and you want to let them know, hey, I'm a businessman or I'm a businesswoman. If you are a woman, you can't be afraid to be out there and have that mindset that you're not just a businessman or just a businesswoman, but you're a businessman. So I studied a lot of this branding, and I'm always constantly reading business periodicals and this and that. And so I want to end today's cast. And again, what did I do? I call it the GowerCast because I'm the brand. GowerCast here. And I want to end the segment here on with some tips, 5 tips for branding. And I took some notes, and it was out of a periodical on an article. If you want to be successful, you should read about successful people and do the things that successful people do. So the first tip in branding is to stay present and connect with individuals. Be present for whoever you come in contact with. Again, think back to me walking around the mall or me walking around a public place and striking up a conversation and letting them know at the end of the conversation that I'm present for them. I'm here for you, just by giving them a card. Second branding tip, trademark who you are or trademark your isms. So if you have a catchphrase, not guilty, trademark it. You see, we've got the not, and I always said, well, how do you know it's yours? You don't own the alphabet. Well, we underline the word not. That's our trademark. But if you have any trademarks or catchphrases that you use, trademark those. If you don't have any trademarks yet, you should trademark those so that they become part of your brand. That way, if down the road that you put the catchphrases on a shirt or hat and you want to market them or sell them or give them away. I've given away tons of hats, T-shirts, sweatshirts. We just recently got Not Guilty hoodies. I'll probably bring one in one day and hang it in the back. Maybe I'll give it away if somebody wants to, comes up with the most creative comment. Crowdsource your content. That's number 3 for branding. What's that mean? Crowdsource my content. Well, what did I say to you at the very beginning? If there's anything that you want to talk about, if there's anything that you want to know about, if there's any subject that you want me to look into or give you my opinion on, I'm asking you for it. So I'm asking what you would like, and I'm hopefully going to deliver it. Number 4, stay in your lane and post daily. So I'm going to talk about the things that I know about. I'm going to stay in my lane. I know about criminal defense work. I've done a lot of criminal defense work. Throughout the podcast, I'll share with you some of the trials that I've been involved in. I've tried close to, I think, 45 cases. I think I said close to 54. I think 45 cases I've tried. I always remember the ones I lost. I've lost 5. Those 5 I remember. Some say I have a pretty good batting average. I think so. But stay in your lane. Talk about things you know. So we know about criminal defense. We know about personal injury. We do know about some family law. My office handles a ton of driver's license appeals. I know about those things. Bankruptcy. We'll talk about probably those 5 areas throughout this GowerCast and subsequent shorts or episodes that we have. This is our first one. So this is our toughest one. And this is the one that might not come across the best. And I hope it does. But if it doesn't, let me know in the comments what I need to fix, and I will. The last thing, as far as a tip for branding, is just remind yourself that you are the personal brand. you are the brand. Now, the brand is whether you are working with someone or working for yourself. I always use the term working with someone because the people that work at Gower Law don't work for me, they work with me. And I've been blessed to have a great group of attorneys. We've got, I mentioned the Bay City office, but I failed to mention early on, we have an office in Grand Rapids, Michigan as well. And the people that work with me there are all people that sought me out, that came to me somehow, some way. They heard about Jason Gower and they came to me, and I'm blessed to have them in my life because they came to me, and I always say God brought them to me. I didn't go out and seek them, but God just put me in the right place at the right time. I was thinking about before coming here today, God will bring people in your life and God will take people out of your life. And one of these podcasts, I'll share with you a situation where God took 5 people out of my life. And I want to share that with you. And that's part of my whole personal journey and personal development of who I am and how I persevered and went forward to create the people's firm, Gower Law, and to continue with the people's firm. Remember, whether you are signing the front of the paycheck or you sign the back of the paycheck as an employee or somebody who works with somebody, you're still your own brand. Kimberly King in my law office is her own brand. Benjamin Braggle in my law office is his own brand. Guy Cotter in my law office is his own brand. Jared Shuey in our Grand Rapids office is his own brand. Jason Gower, as you've listened now for however many minutes you're listening, is his own brand. With Kimberly King, I want to share with you, she handles all our family law. She's very good. She's probably one of the best family law lawyers in the Great Lakes Bay Area. And I always joke around and say, if it's time to get rid of that ring, call Kim King. That's just my little joke for her. But she's her own brand, and she approaches things a little different than I do. And Ben and Guy approach things a little different than I do. I probably do a little too much talking. They might do a little more listening. But whether they were on their own or they were part of this team at Gower Law working with me, they are their own brand as well. So as that old guy told me, my buddy Joel, he said, work on your brand. And that stuck with me. Work on your brand. So before I wrap up today, I just want to say that I'm very happy that you're listening today. I'm very happy you tuned in. And in the future, I'm sure we'll probably have some guests that'll come in. I'm hoping that maybe one or maybe all 3 of my daughters will come and we'll do something with them. I've got 3 beautiful daughters, Justice, Liberty, and America. They're wonderful and they're beautiful. I hope someday they join their father on this podcast, the GowerCast, and we get these videos out there in the ether, and people can view them, and they'll last and be something that outlasts me, and people can get 1 or 2 things from them. Now, I told my middle daughter, who has got a cheer competition coming up here, Bay City Western cheer competition, competitive cheer. They're raising money right now as well. So if you go to my social media, you can click on it and make a donation to my daughter Liberty's cheer team. They're raising money for the season. And they got a great team and a great coach over there. I told her that I would mention a couple of her classmates who tune in to, I don't know if they tune in. I guess they know. Maybe they used to tune in when I was on the radio. But in any event, I told her that I would tell AJ hello and thank you for listening. And Izzy, I want to say hi to Izzy. And the teacher, Miss Baldolf, thank you for listening. And thank you all for promoting Gower Law whenever you get a chance. I certainly thank you all from the bottom of my heart on that. So thanks again, and I will see you in the future at another podcast. The last thing I want to end with is I went to Cooley Law School, which I love Cooley Law School. They did their 50th anniversary in 2022. And I just want to point out who they featured. See that? They featured me in there. There were 5 people featured in there. And they talked about the starting of the practice, and they talked about what you did to start and what you did to become, I guess, successful. And I always say, just help people and the money will follow. I was very happy that they did this, and I was very happy to be part of it and to share what it is that I went through to get to where I'm at with this practice of law. So thank you, Cooley, for giving me that chance to get through. And thank you all for tuning in. And we will see you soon. Thanks.